Welcome back. Mixed news today on the jobs front. An independent payroll firm says the nation added 114,000 jobs in July, but layoffs hit a 16-month high. We get the official numbers from the Labor Department on Friday. For now, 14 million Americans are out of work. Millions more are settling for part-time work or taking jobs that don't even require the degree that they earned to put themselves through college to pay off their debt. And with those kinds of numbers, you cannot ignore the need for job creation in our country. The president just spoke about it a short time ago, and yesterday the president said he'll push Congress to take new action to create jobs. But a man who may understand how to do that more than just about anyone else, Dylan Ratigan, more than anyone else understands this. I don't want to say you know more than the president, but listen, people are looking for solutions at this point, and there are a lot of folks who believe he's got it wrong, Dylan.
Well, and at the end of the day, I think before we get into this, you have to understand, I have no idea any more than anybody else, other than to assert there is a system of problem solving, a value system that exists in this world that solves these types of problems by setting long-term goals and then working together to get at them. How this series came to be is that one of the chiefs here at MSNBC asked me, Dylan, how can America create jobs? Should we shrink the government? Should we cut spending? Should we increase spending? The answer, maybe all of the above, maybe none of the above. Because at this point, it's fundamentally the wrong question. To create jobs, any country, our country, any country, must have more money coming into the country than it has leaving the country, by definition. We, however, in America, have the exact opposite. Much more money leaves our country every month than comes into it. And until we reverse that trillion-dollar extraction of wealth, it is mathematically impossible to create sustainable jobs. Sure, we could borrow money. It's all short-term. There are, in fact, three major components that the government controls that determine the flow of money into or out of our country. One is trade, two is taxes, and three is banking policy. I'll cover each of these three, one today, the others tomorrow and Friday, but let's begin with trade. If you look at the math of these so-called free trade agreements, like NAFTA from the Clinton administration, they put our country, America, at a disadvantage and force American executives to do business that rewards their business's bottom line while in the process hurting everybody else in the country. All the deals are aimed at making it easier and more profitable to export jobs and production and send money overseas while keeping the cash offshore rather than having it invested here at home. Let's use Caterpillar as an example. Beautiful firm. You know the tractors, all this? Good company. Well, they now make a tremendous percentage of their heavy equipment in China. If they made it here like they used to and then exported it to China, it would face a 25% import tax from the Chinese government. But if they make it in China and sell it in China, no tax. By the way, Chinese imports to America are taxed at a paltry 2.5%. So now Caterpillar gets a gigantic discount and increased profit on equipment built and sold in China, which leads them to invest and hire in China. Jim Owens, chief executive at Caterpillar. His job is to make money for his company and his shareholders. It's why he is paid. If you or I ran Caterpillar with these rules, we would either export jobs and money to China to make our bottom line, or we would be fired for our failure to do so. Now, maybe if our government had the courage to level the playing field, the Jim Owens of the world would say, let's make it in America. But until then, it is bye-bye jobs and bye-bye cash in favor of a highly profitable rigged trade agreement for the profit of a few. We must, Tamron, reverse that flow. It's not just trade, but as long, picture you make a certain amount of money, you spend a certain amount of money. If every month I was taking from you twice as much money as you make, how would you be doing?
I'd be doing poorly.
As anybody
would. That's also applicable if I'm spending more money than I make as well, which brings us back to that whole debate that I don't even want to talk about anymore with the debt ceiling. But I do want to talk about China because you hear people bring this up all the time, that we're owned by China, that we have no future, and that we'll be in debt long after you and I have turned to dust.
Yep.
What's the theory here?
Well,
what is the fact? I don't want theory.
Two facts. Couple of statistics. One, how much of our debt do they have? We have 14 trillion. A little over $1 trillion of it is in Chinese hands. It's enough. It's a lot. It's scary. It's not. Most of it's not there. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to take from that number. 13 trillion of it is not in China. $1 trillion is.
Okay.
Still, you're like, what could they do with that? They could really screw us. Well, on the other hand, what is China's most important thing? Full employment on the ground in China so that they do not have civil unrest. That's all China cares about. In order to do that, they need to have a marketplace to sell their exports to. What is the biggest single market? Obviously, you're looking at it.
Right.
So basically, it's something like $300 billion just last year. $283 billion was the amount of money Americans spent buying Chinese goods last year. They don't have as much leverage as people think because they are so dependent on access to our consumer market.
You talked about these rigged trade agreements. There are trade deals on tap. South Korea, Panama, Colombia. Why would anyone vote for this if this hurts us in the end because we're trying to get our products in the hands of these people as opposed to being the consumer of their products? We need manufacturing here to get out of the United States and our borders.
Quickly, and this is where the sort of saddest part of the breach of integrity, I think, in all of our politicians manifests itself right now. Politicians have figured out if they can appear to be doing something that solves a problem that's politically desirable, we're going to create jobs. Right. Trade agreements create jobs. If even after 10 years, 15 years of arithmetic and math that prove that these agreements are sucking trillions of dollars in jobs from our country, they still want to appear to be doing something about jobs and claiming jobs agreements. So they make them even in the face of arithmetic and math that shows that doing these exact agreements is the problem, not the solution.
You're going to be back with me tomorrow with Jobs Wanted. What's the topic?
Tomorrow we'll do the tax code. There's a lot of ways.
Because I think
there's a lot of ways to steal money. Well, no, it doesn't really, because it's fairly simple. But at the end of the day, special interests use taxes, trade, and banking to extract money from our country, as opposed to using banking, taxes, and trade to drive investment and prosperity into our country. This is not rocket science.
Okay, we'll talk about the tax code and how it will hopefully, if transformed, get some people to work. 14 million
money in.
And drop money in. All right, thank you, Dylan.